Well, hello, DevCentral community. I'm John, and this is Jason, and this is DevCentral Connects. And we're coming to you live like we do every Thursday at 12:30 Pacific. We're streaming this thing live to YouTube and LinkedIn and Periscope. And just like we do every single time, you type some comments there in the little comment section, and we will interact with you live. And so we've got a great show today. This is October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, or maybe I should say National Cybersecurity Awareness Month is the month of October, because October is probably more than just Cybersecurity Awareness Month. You know, each month has a whole bunch of whatever months.
Every day, like you can apply to have it be like National Pancake Day or something.
It's Pancake Month and it's Cybersecurity Awareness. But nonetheless, this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so we have got some really cool topics to talk about, you know, related to all that. But before we get started, Jason, I have a fantastic, what I consider a fantastic question to start things off today. And it has nothing to do with cybersecurity awareness, but it has everything to do with amusement parks.
Ooh, okay.
When you go to an amusement park, what is your go-to like ride or attraction?
That is a very good question. The roller coasters is number one.
Okay, so you're a roller coaster guy.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Anything that takes me upside down and fast and dropping off cliffs and all that. Yep.
Okay, so you're like flips and twists and all that. You're
the more the merrier.
The more the merrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the roller coasters are great. The one I don't do very well is the one that like you start horizontal and eventually it starts lifting you up, and so then you're doing this business
way.
and then
What a mess. Yeah.
Anytime my stomach starts to like do that, all that centrifugal force action, that's no bueno for me.
That's not a good thing. The funnel cakes that you ate earlier might start to reappear.
That's
Who
right.
knows?
Or the turkey legs. Yeah.
Or the turkey leg. Yeah, I think that's one of the only places you can go get a turkey leg, maybe, is at the fair or at an amusement park. No, hey, actually, I'm the same way. I love roller coasters. The more flips, the more twists, the better on that stuff. So it's a great time. So amusement park, roller coasters, it's fantastic.
What's the best roller coaster you've ever been on?
Oh, that's a great question. Man, I'm trying to remember. There is right outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, an amusement park called Kings Island. And there's a wooden roller coaster called the Beast. Mm-hmm. And then years ago, there was one called the Son of Beast, or the Son of the Beast.
I remember passing that park on the highway. I haven't been to it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well, the Son of the Beast, it's a wooden roller coaster, but it has a couple of sections where you actually go upside down. And that's what I said. I was on this wooden roller coaster and I was like, wait a minute, we're going straight for an upside down part. What's going on? It freaked me out a little bit. And I was like, oh, so it's like it goes off the wooden, well, it didn't go off, but it changes from wooden tracks to like the metal, upside down tracks. And then you're back
the one that's got the wheels that'll actually hold it on just in case.
Well, because I was thinking that too. I was like, these are just the flat wheels that don't have the side or the top, but it did. And I was like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to love this. And I loved it.
Or you'll love it and die at the same time.
I will love when I die right now. So anyway, it's great stuff. Great stuff. Well, good to go, man. Well, hey, so this month, like we said, is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And we have with us today I was going to say a special guest, but he's more than special. He's like the most special. I don't know the synonym, or I don't know the word for the most special person.
He's like at Christmas when fun uncle comes over, right?
He is the most fun uncle that all of us could have. We call him friend. You call him Peter Silva. So let's welcome the man, the myth, the one who makes LinkedIn enjoyable to look at, Peter Silva. Aloha, my friend. Aloha.
Aloha. Me and my long hair appreciate the time.
Peter, when's the last time you had a haircut, man?
January.
Wow. January 2020. So 2020, it's been a crazy year for everybody. And, and for your hair as well. It's been, it's seen the whole year,
You just flipped it like flipping it made me think of that Michael Jackson video way back in the day where they did like the face morphs. Every time they'd like move the head, it morphed into a different face.
Oh,
I was like, who am I going to see next?
Yeah,
Who's Peter turning into?
Oh, Grim, you mean?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, Grim, yeah. We just watched that, as a matter of fact. And I have my, this is almost my Rick Springfield hair, too. I should have.
Springfieldish, no doubt, man.
Wow.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, so tell us about National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, like why we care about it, what it is, some of that kind of stuff. Drop some truth on us, man.
Yeah, sure. And John, it's one of those things where they set aside a month to kind of focus on it, but in the security industry, it's something that we pretty much think about every day, but it's still important. It's now in its 17th year, and it tries to raise awareness about the importance of cybersecurity across the nation, making sure, all citizens have the resources to be safer and secure online. The theme this year, and it kind of goes into this whole bit about everybody being locked down and staying at home, and the theme is called "Do Your Part, Be Cyber Smart." Yeah, so it's kind of if you're connecting an IoT device or worried about your home router and your Wi-Fi, and even obviously, you have kids going online with Zoom and those kinds of things. It's pretty important to kind of take that approach within your own environment to ensure that all the stuff you have in is protected. This first week, or actually, this is the week 1 of the entire series, and apt the title for the show, If You Connect It, Protect It. And then in the coming weeks, like next week is securing devices at home, at work. So I kind of talked about the IoT, but there's refrigerators and your cameras and those kinds of things to secure. For week 3 is securing internet connected devices in healthcare, critically important. There was a breach just announced last week. I think it was UHC, if I'm not mistaken. Not to mention, the ransomware attacks that are occurring.
Nope. We lose Peter. You there, buddy?
Might have. I think right in the middle of ransomware. I don't know if that was planned or not. But yeah, I tell you what, we will see if we can get Pasilva back with us. But in the meantime, we'll kind of finish talking about the things that he was mentioning. It's the Do Your Part, Be Cyber Smart, National Cybersecurity Awareness. Oh, and I think we got Peter back with us. So
where'd I cut off?
We got, ironically, right after you said ransomware and other cyber attacks, you broke. So, we don't know what's going on right now.
Not only were your account frozen, so was your face.
That's right.
So it's kind of apropos here. Case in point.
Yeah.
I think I got through week 4, and I was talking to you guys, or I had blurted out the fact that you guys are kind of trying to tie up the themes with the shows for DC Connects this month, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. So all this month of DevCentral Connects, if you love it, Peter's your man. If you don't love it, Peter's your man.
Hey, Scheffler. Maybe it was Scheffler that DDoSed me.
Chef. We know Chef's the security expert, man. Maybe he was nefarious Scheffler. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. No, well, good stuff. Well, Pete, thanks for giving us a little overview about what this month is and some of the highlights and focuses. So I love it, man. It's connect it, protect it. There's healthcare stuff. There's all the different parts.
Yeah, and follow, obviously the @DevCentral account on Twitter, our F5 Networks account, the F5 Labs account on social, because they'll be dropping these little pieces of good information along the way this month from some of our security experts, including Mr. Scheffler.
Mr. Scheffler, who hears us talking about him, he now says, let's not highlight the fact that he might have done that to Peter Silva.
Chef is listening.
That's right. Always listening. Good stuff. Awesome, man. Well, Pete, it's always a pleasure. And we appreciate everything you do for the community. And so I speak for the community, although you interact with the community every day. Thanks for everything you do, man, for our team and for this great community. So thanks for being here with us, man.
Thanks,
awesome.
man.
Great to see you.
Thanks, Peter.
You guys.
All right. Well, hey, man. So the next little part of the show is what I like to call story time with Jason and John. So Jason, everybody loves a good story, right? Everybody wants to hear the great story. And in the theme of this week's cybersecurity and awareness, if you connect it, protect it. A lot of people think about, the internet connected devices. Pete just talked about all the different IoT stuff or whatever. But there's also another part of connecting it that we need to think about, and that is the physical security as well. So I was sitting in the drive-through of this little fast food kind of thing recently, and I was giving my order. And as I was giving the order there at the little, drive-through thing, then I could see the back door to this particular place, and it had the little punch, keypad or whatever. And there were workers. I guess it was kind of shift change time or whatever. Anyway, workers coming up. And the door was locked, but it had been opened from the inside. And then that little swing down little catch device that can kind of keep the door from closing had been put down. And so it would shut almost all the way, but it was not totally shut. And so other workers that were coming in, they just grabbed the door and opened it up. So I thought, man, I could go and park my car and then wait until everyone's, all the workers are kind of busy after shift change or whatever, because the door is still totally propped open. And I could have snuck in the back and, grab somebody's keys or whatever. So obviously I did not do that. I would never do something like that.
Of course not.
But that's connected. If you're connected to the outside world physically, you need to protect that stuff.
Yeah, it makes me think of Monsters Inc., where the doors connected the monster reality to the earthly reality, and there was great risk to both sides.
Yes,
by not having a clear protection on that door, and they built an entire movie around exactly that concept. And like you, I had a drive-through experience recently. I was sitting in line at a Freddy's, and there's 3 slots as you're waiting that have perfect view of, you mentioned the kick plate, but I had, perfect view to the keypad.
Yeah.
And
the
so,
actual punch, open up the door. The actual
punch open up the door, because there was no, in fact, I'm surprised there was no kind of shade over it, even for weather protection, but it was just very clear. You could see every single one of the buttons. And the employees coming, they wouldn't shield it at all. It was clear as day what the passcode was,
right?
And so they're punching it in, and they go in, and so they need that code for access. But I could also, after hours, have plainly gone right into the restaurant.
Yeah,
not that I would do that,
right? Of course. But
clear violation of guarding what's meant to be secure.
Yeah,
as they might as well not have had a lock on that door, because the employees took no actions whatsoever to guard that information.
Right. And it was a shared code.
Yeah.
Not everyone had their own personal code, right? Or whatever.
Yep.
So
as we're talking about cybersecurity in the month of October, physical security is important too.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of those concepts translate into the real world. Some of them don't. But certainly securing things that you connect. If you're going to put a door in between what's meant to be protected and the outside world, you should definitely protect that.
That's right.
All right. Well, we've heard it's a good idea to use 2-factor authentication for security, but it's equally important to have both of those factors available to you, which leads us to a new segment here on DevCentral Connects we like to call Really.
So Jason, I heard about this guy. We'll call him Steve, right? We'll call him Steve. He sets up 2-factor authentication. This is a real story, by the way. He sets up 2-factor authentication for his Google account, his Gmail, which is great for preventing people, from breaking into his Gmail account. That's awesome. But what happened was he locked himself out of his house without his phone and without his wallet. And he had this pot of boiling water on the stove that's about to just overflow Really?
Really? Cook much? Really?
Yeah. Who cooks? Who cooks? So suddenly this two-factor thing was a problem, not a solution, right? So see, Steve didn't have his roommates' numbers memorized because who memorizes phone numbers anymore? Like, really?
So Steve convinced a neighbor to give him access to their computer. Really?
But Steve couldn't get into his email to get his roommates' numbers because he needed his phone to get his second factor because that's what he set up as his second factor. Really?
So he had printed out all of his emergency secondary codes for a situation like this. Google offers this option, but really, they were all safe and sound and unavailable in his locked up wallet.
Yes. So see, Steve was unable to break into his own account. So instead, he still broke, but he broke into his house. He smashed the window to unlock the door. Really?
So really, his two-factor authentication ended up making the house less secure for a few days while he waited for the window to be replaced. Really?
Wow. Just
Wow.
wow. Really? So that's a fun little really story where we go through, some real world, fun security related things. And that takes us to our next part of the show where we're going to go into OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. And we're going to look at a little thing that we like to call the Juice Shop. All right, so OWASP, the OWASP organization, they set up this web application called Juice Shop, and you can download it for free. You can set it up yourself on your local machine or however you want to set it up. And it is this extremely vulnerable web application, and so it gives you a chance to be able to kind of practice your security skills or practice your hacking skills, or however you want to kind of do this thing. But I thought that the term Juice Shop was kind of a fun little history. So the OWASP organization came up with the term Juice Shop, and it originally began from the German language, and they started with the word dump. And so dump being a store that sells lousy things, or they don't exactly have the customer satisfaction in mind, right? And so the German word for dump is Softladen. And so if you take Softladen and you break it up in its two component words, soft and laden, and then you translate those two words back into English, then that translates into Juice Shop. And so that's where they came up with the name Juice Shop. I thought that was a fun little history story on the beginnings of the name Juice Shop. And then actually, as it turns out, Juice Shop initials are JS, which is the same as JavaScript, although they say that it's simply a coincidence that those two, the two initials are the same. But
and the whole app is built on JavaScript, right?
It's totally built on JavaScript, exactly. So they did take the JavaScript, some of the unofficial JavaScript icons and those kinds of things, and use those to then create the Juice Shop icon. It's like this. It's almost like a carton of orange juice that is leaking at the bottom. So it's like all this juice is spilling out. So it's this leaky web application full of vulnerabilities.
Did they film my toddler?
Exactly. Just dump it out. So anyway, I wanted to go over a couple of quick OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, and we're going to take a look at them today. Jason has actually fired up the Juice Shop app, and we're going to take a look at it. We're going to kind of throw some different vulnerabilities at this thing, see how it handles them, and then we're going to introduce some security, and then we're going to see how it handles it after that. So it'll be a cool little little exercise here. So on the OWASP top 10, we'll look at a few of them today. But one that we'll look at is the injection attack, and specifically in this case, SQL injection. And when we talk about injection attacks, a lot of people say SQL injection. There's actually more than just SQL. There's LDAP. There's other things that you can inject But that is the #1 vulnerability on the OWASP top 10.
Still.
And it's been #1 forever. Exactly. And I would say this as well. It's and we've mentioned this before, but on the OWASP top 10, it's not that the OWASP top 10 is exactly your top 10. So as an organization, as a company, whatever, you need to know your web applications, and you need to figure out your own top 10. So for example, injection may be a really high one for you, but it may not be the #1 for you, right? But across the way that OWASP looks at things, injection is #1. So, okay. Before I get into too many of these, we did want to shout out to some of the people in the community out there that are saying hi. So just a few of you, we're going to say hi to Mr. Sebastian Maniac.
Come on, Sebastian.
Who is the Ansible king of the world. Man, this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to automation. So great stuff. Great stuff, Sebastian. Good to see you. Daniel Edgar, who was with us, goodness, was it last time?
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
You talk about a web application firewall genius, Daniel Edgar. He knows exactly
shout
what
out
to do.
him. He set aside some time to help me get set up in the demo environment that we're going to go through today. So
this is what we do, man. In the community, we help each other. So Daniel, thanks so much for your help, man. Really appreciate you. And then here's Chef again. Juice Shop is a great tool to learn on. Totally agree. So Daniel, the story reminds me of an old school cipher. Yeah, it's kind of like that, so, kind of this really weird roundabout way to arrive at where you're going.
Yeah. I like stories like that when, they're really thoughtful in how they name products. And, and all that. Because sometimes it's like, you name it, it's like meat, it's like, okay, well, that's descriptive and accurate, but,
but it
not very exciting.
There's no story behind it. Everyone loves a good story.
Holy cow, is that Rodrigo?
Mr. Rodrigo Albuquerque, man.
Rodrigo.
It's great to see you, my friend.
Miss
I hope
you
you're
too,
doing
man.
well. Yeah, we miss you as well, man. Rodrigo is he's a great part of the community. So good stuff. So yeah, just wanted to say hi to everybody out there. Thanks for being part of DevCentral Connects, and we love to connect with all of you. So in this demo, we'll turn it over to Jason here in a second. But in this demo, we're going to look at injection attacks. We're going to look at some broken access control. This is basically where you have authenticated users that are able to do things more, they're able to do more things than they should be able to do, right? We're going to look at some security misconfiguration. This is where maybe you load up, some software right out of the box, as it were, and you don't change the passwords, or, if you have like an error message that comes back to the user whenever they, do something that they're not supposed to do, then you're relaying more information in your error messages than you should. If it's an error and you're like, hey, I'm running exactly this, server at this, version or whatever, maybe you don't need to tell them that whole thing, right? Maybe you can just say, hey, sorry, you messed up here. And then also cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting, we love some cross-site scripting. This is where you can, the cross-site scripting allows the attackers to execute scripts in the victim's browsers, and you can do all kinds of stuff, steal data, you can, hijack sessions, all kinds of different stuff. So it's no bueno, no good. So Jason, if you're ready, I say we take a look at this thing we call the Juice Shop. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Boom. So I'm going to bring you onto the screen and take it away, my friend.
All right. So this is the kind of the list of attacks. And by the way, none of these attacks are mine personally. There's a resource that we'll link in the notes in the chat session, and also in the notes to the show that's kind of poning the Juice Shop. And all these are described in the solutions part of that document. And so I'm just going to go through some of them here, and this is the list. So we're going to start with a quick SQL injection, and we're going to do two processes. We're going to start in the Juice Shop without protection, and then we'll go through it again with protection with a very base policy, and we'll see, hey, what does the base policy right out of the gate? What does it snag, and where do you might need to do some customization of that policy? Cool. And so we'll start with a SQL injection, and so I'll take this over here into the Juice Shop. So this is the Juice Shop app. This is running on my local machine in a Docker container. It's you install Docker, you issue one command, and Juice Shop runs for you. So it's really not any harder than that to get started in kind of hacking. And OWASP Juice Shop it's an affirmative feedback application to where, if you crack one of the ones that they built into the system for you to find, you'll get an acknowledgement with a green notification.
Almost like a capture the flag sort of a,
exactly
idea.
That. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's cool. And I guess when I first heard of Juice Shop, I thought, well, I wonder what it looks like. But they've gotten very creative. I mean, it really is like you're buying juice off of this web application, right? And even the cookies, they say we use fruit cookies.
Right.
So I love it. So a lot of creativity. Right. Great job.
All right. So in the email address here, this is your what would be your user account. I'm going to put in a little SQL in there where it's looking for accounts that the deleted at field is not null. So obviously this targets the GDPR. I always get that acronym wrong.
Yep.
And
all the privacy stuff.
Yeah. And so if one was not null, then it's going to rip that out of the table if this field is insecure. And so I can just, put some characters in there.
Doesn't even matter what the password is, right?
And then, I didn't disable. Now you know what password manager I use.
Well, that is some,
that's information leakage right there.
Dang it. That is some security misinformation right there, Jason. Great job, sharing that.
Okay, so we had a SQL injection there, and the challenge in this particular one it found it's a GDPR data erasure. And now I know I'm logged in with Chris's erased user account.
Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of the first successful challenge there, and I didn't need to know anything other than knowing how SQL works in order to gain access to the system. So obviously unsafe, not a good idea.
Not a happy time. And so just again to kind of overview the SQL injection, effectively what you're doing is in this request that's going to from Jason's browser to the web application. There's this SQL database back there that's doing its thing. And if you know SQL syntax, then in the request you can configure it in such a way that you're effectively trying to manipulate the request so that it will run a SQL command against that SQL database that's tied in with this web application. So what the web application should do is it should notice that and say, no, I'm not going to allow you to run a SQL command as a part of this HTTP request. But in this case, it did. And like we said, man, this is like the number one, attack or number one security risk on the OWASP top 10, because you can do so many things with this, like so many really, really powerful bad things. So
yeah,
it's
the two extremes, right, are you steal all the data that's in the database, or you're just malicious and you dump all the details in the database. Yeah, and both are extremely bad for. Yeah, obviously stealing the data is far worse. But from the outage standpoint, right, until you can recover your database, that's bad too.
Well, and there's also, you get into some of the psychological operations of this. You can edit, you can change the data, maybe just a little bit. So what if you maybe steal it all just because it's like, hey, I'm in here, I want to steal it. But what if you just change one little thing? Then it casts doubt into the mind of the owner now that it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's been changed or what hasn't. Now I can't trust anything in this whole database. And, so you can really start to do some bad things.
Yeah, that's totally, yeah. Okay, so another one of these is doing a cross-site scripting. So if we dump this in search, obviously we don't want to allow end users to change what the website says. And so in this case, we're just popping it up on alert, but you can also change text on a page if those fields are vulnerable. So, if you're wanting anybody to have some kind of a, this site sucks or whatever. And you can even have persistent cross-site scripting as well, right, to where it's not even just in your session or the, session comes that it's going to exist there for all sessions. Yeah. Yep. So, obviously that was a successful attack there in the search field.
Yep. Good stuff. Yep. So that's not good that the application would allow that.
Right. So that's in the search field, but you can also do those kinds of things in the URI as well. And if we come back here to attack like that. Obviously the app itself was not set up to react to a URI, cross-site scripting. So that is, I'm not getting a flag for that. And it's not, at least this app is not vulnerable to that kind of attack.
Yep.
We'll come back to that when we look at protections from the firewall. All right. So this next one is sensitive data exposure. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and log out.
Yeah, log out of that,
Chris,
SQL injection attack login that you had, right?
That's right. So we're going to come over here, and a lot of the capture the flags, sometimes they give you hints, and sometimes it's all about you just hunting for anomalies.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ones I think is more about hunting. So you're looking, okay, check out our boring terms of use. So you come in here and you're looking at the terms of use. They put in a bunch of the lorem ipsum stuff, and then the point of this one is, okay, if I take this out, is this app going to do a directory listing? Which obviously you should probably not allow that,
right,
unless it's your intention to do that.
Right.
But in this case, it is giving me a directory listing. And so, that's interesting. Acquisitions. There's all kinds of, there's encrypted stuff, announcement encrypted. So there's all kinds of things that you might want to start interrogating in here.
Yep.
And so we look at the acquisitions. It says, hey, this document is confidential. Do not distribute this. And so that, if I go back to the main app, should give me another flag. And it does. I accessed a confidential document. And so that's, again, that's the sensitive data exposure.
And I'm glad you said, these things are not always just super intuitive, that it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course, I'm going to go look for the acquisitions page and a hidden, directory listing or something, So sometimes it does take a little bit of digging around and poking around and being like, does this work? Does that work? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. So anyway, so even with this most vulnerable Juice Shop app, you still got to kind of dig a little bit. I have found that personally for me, when I'm trying to go in there and dig around or play around with websites like this, web applications like this, then, there's part of me is like, oh, well, it's going to have the vulnerability just right there front and center, like super easy. Just click here and you hack in, right? And it's like, that's not how it works. You've got to kind of dig a little bit and study up on what some of these attacks are.
Yeah. And in the Poning, the Juice Shop document, I don't know if it's in that one or just the regular Juice Shop presentation of the application. They give a category of problems that, hey, go find this problem, and they give a rating on how easy to hard it is to crack. And some of them are 1 star, some of them are all the way to 6 stars. We're not showing any 6 stars. And so there's quite a bit. I mean, there are a couple where you're actually dealing with breaking encryption and steganography, where you're looking at embedded information and images and that kind of thing.
Yep.
All right. So this fifth one here is broken access control, and I don't really, just to be honest, I don't totally understand this one, but I just wanted to, show this one, and so I'm going to log in. One of the other things that is it's not part of this demonstration, but it's one of the things that you get points for is, guessing easy credentials. So this is admin at Juice Shop, and then it's admin123 is the password.
So just to clarify on that one, you just guessed the password, right? So that was just an easily guessable password,
right?
Admin123. So
right.
yeah,
if you look around at some of the other information, you'll see, like if you go to the what was it, the complaint wall or the customer feedback.
Customer feedback.
So at the customer feedback, you can see the author, admin at Juice Shop, but maybe it's the about us. Anyway, there's a wall somewhere where they're showing you. Is it the photo wall? So they had feedback, and they showed you a bunch of email addresses that were the Juice Shop. So they already had, I know how to format it, and admin, admin at whatever domain, pretty common.
Because you had to
email address.
Yeah, so you kind of had to dig around, because the Juice Shop, it actually had a little hyphen in there and part of the email address. So you couldn't just totally it's like super easily brute force it, but as you kind of dig around the web or the web application, and you learn, hey, this is how they format their email addresses.
Right.
And then that one that you just showed there a second ago, it had like the dot whatever IN at, or the asterisk
right.
IN at Juice Shop, whatever. So you could kind of figure it out. Oh, that's probably admin.
Right.
So anyway, okay, good stuff.
And so the other thing, some of the tools, and this is just like if you're going to do capture the flags, which even if your focus isn't security, I highly recommend starting to do capture the flags, because it's really interesting to just kind of start to see the way that things are broken. And, getting on the side of implementing secure coding from the start, rather than always having to play catch up on the backside and either mitigate with firewalls or going through the long process of going back and fixing broken code, because a lot of these are not necessarily hard fixes. It's just a matter of making them priorities. So somebody had a question there.
Yeah, you talking about this one?
Maybe
it was the Zscaler.
Yeah,
here, we'll pop it up.
Just want to know if F5 is the same as Zscaler. So from in what context?
Yeah, like
from a secure context, or just generic industry technology?
Right. Yeah. So great. Yeah, appreciate the interaction there. I'm probably gonna mess up the name. Pratyush.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe you could give us a little bit of clarity on do you just want to know, like, from a industry perspective, or do we, do security the same, or that kind of thing? So yeah,
right.
But thanks for the question.
Yep.
Oh, here we go. He says, as a technology.
So, there's some overlap between what Zscaler does and what F5 does. So, we have, load balancing capabilities and offloading capabilities and firewalling capabilities. And so from a, strictly technology comparisons, they do similar things. If you want to get into the specifics of what they do versus we do, we can take that offline.
Yeah.
Okay, and so from a tools perspective, when you're getting into things like capture the flag, if you really want to dig into an app like Juice Shop, you'll want a suite of tools to be able to hack. And there's some Linux distros, live CDs, although nobody uses CDs anymore. So maybe it's a live USB where you boot from your USB, and then you can jump into something, or just spin up a container to do that as well. Because if you're going to spin up Juice Shop in a container, you can spin up one of those live CDs with all of your security tools on it as well. But from a desktop perspective, some of the ones that are really useful is just using your browser tools as well. And one of the attacks here is just looking into the session storage here. And first, I need to put some things in my cart. So
let's get some juice in that cart, Jason.
Yeah, of course.
We're starting to get thirsty, man. Thirsty.
So let me close that back out real quick.
All righty. While you're doing that, I'm going to pop up some Sebastian. Burp Suite is awesome. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to mention Burp Suite, Postman, and your built-in browser tools. Also, if you don't want to go as heavy as something like a Burp Suite proxy, you can use things like modify headers to where if you want to change values in a header that you're going to send, or insert a header that wouldn't normally be there. So I can see here in my basket,
you got a few things really quick.
Got a few things here.
As you're doing that, I want to, we're talking about Burp Suite is awesome. Here's Chef again, man. You just got to keep a close eye on Peter Scheffler. Peter Chef says, hey, Sebastian, he uses Burp Suite on your machine all the time. So great job, Chef. He already DDoSed Peter Silva earlier on some ransomware discussion. But anyway, and then one other note here, Mohammed Fiddler too is a good tool to be able to modify some requests and that kind of thing. So yeah, great word, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
So learning how to use those tools and learning how to, so if you're responsible for protecting an app, it's good to know your app and to use these tools to say,
poke
hey,
around
how does my app perform?
Yeah.
And all that. Okay. So in here, I'm looking in the session storage of the application, and there's this bid value and item total. And I only have one item, and I'm going to change that to 2. And then if I go back to my cart, take that a second to load here.
Yeah. Come back to the basket.
Okay. Well, that one didn't work.
Didn't do it.
This time. It worked in pre-show.
Of course,
Basically, what
works.
you're doing is you're getting a view into somebody else's basket.
Yeah.
Because the session data is not split along the lines of the users that are logging in, and so that's a broken access control in there.
Yeah.
And then the final one we'll take a look at before we look at the protected one is just the a security misconfiguration. And so if I want to log in, I'm just going to clear all these flags so we can see here.
Create some real estate for us to see.
All right, so
you're going to accept the
cookies. Yep, I'm going to accept some fruit cookies. So I'm just going to put a single tick in there. So it's like I'm not putting SQL in there. I'm just putting a single tick in the email. And obviously I didn't get logged in, but it's given me some indication of what kind of data it's returning me stuff that I probably shouldn't see. Mm-hmm. And so that's a misconfiguration on that field, and so that's kind of an intro into the kinds of attacks that you can initiate against the OWASP Juice Shop. Highly recommend you go out and get that pwning document, and it'll walk you through all the ones that it successfully attacked against the Juice Shop, and then you can learn about those attacks. Some of them are very clear to me. Some of them I still have room to grow in my own understanding.
Yeah.
All right. So I have another version of this OWASP Juice Shop, and this is actually set up in the demo environment that Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Helped me get set up. And so in this particular instance, it's got Nginx App Protect sitting in front of it. It could just as easily have Advanced WAF sitting in front of it. And the from a base policy standpoint, it would work the same. Mm-hmm. I did want to mention there is an article out on DevCentral. We will put the link in the show notes. But it kind of walks through starting in version 15.0. There is an OWASP top 10 dashboard that you can look at, and so as your app is, and that's a big IP version 15.0. As your app it's learning your app and all that, it gives you kind of a compliance check on where you stand with the OWASP top 10, and so go read that article. It's a great article. And if you have your web app firewall, whether it's ASM or Advanced WAF or Nginx App Protect, enable it. If you have it in your environment and it's just sitting there passive, I highly recommend you start investigating how do you get that active and start getting those protections, because there's some things out of the gate that will just work. There's other things you're going to have to massage, and we'll see that. We'll see that here in a minute.
Yep.
All right. So let me bring my window open so I don't have to scroll back. Okay, so let's do the login first. And this is the cross-site scripting and the login. And this is the protected app. So if we try an injection attack here.
Yeah, and this is injection. Yeah, just to clarify, it's that same SQL injection.
And that failed here. And if we look at our inspection tools and try that again, we should see that request rejected. So we see that here that we got the Nginx App Protect responded, said nope, we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah, and
it should do the same for this single tick. So for the security here, we're getting it right straight here, and it's popping that up. That nope, we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah. Consult with your administrator.
Yeah.
And just a quick plug on, I don't know if people had a chance to see some of the Nginx sprint recap that we did, but Daniel Edgar, shout out to Daniel again, did a great demo on the Nginx App Protect and how you can modify that that response page right there. It doesn't always have to say request rejected. Your ID number is blah, blah, blah. Check with your administrator. You can totally, modify that and make it look really pretty and nice and whatever. So
yeah. And he actually shows you on the dashboard side, where you can find your, all these support IDs that I'm showing. We're staying on the front end of this, but all this stuff is logged. You're able to dig into, okay, what exactly, what signatures did this match, or all that.
Who did it come from?
Right.
Who is this doing this stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
Because on the legitimate blocking side, you don't necessarily care that illegitimate traffic is, you don't care what the traffic is that's being blocked necessarily, but false positives, you do need to be able to track those down, and so
for sure.
those are helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so so one of the things that we did earlier as well is we did some cross-site scripting in search field, and you can say, oh, so we got the base policy on here, but that cross-site scripting on the search field still works. And so what do you think about that, John?
I think that's it's not what you want. You don't want the cross-site scripting to work.
No, but so on a base policy on something like that, why do you think something like that would work on a base policy?
Well, so I guess by nature of the base policy, it is kind of I don't want to call it ineffective, but it's the bare bones. It's the most basic thing you could have. So there may be some little edge cases that it's like, hey, I didn't quite catch that one. So you need to update that policy to, include more signatures or, that type of a thing.
Yeah. In this instance here, it's an iframe, right? And iframes are pretty common on websites. And so, in any particular field now, the JavaScript alert, even that is not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you want. And so I think sometimes people think that I have a web app firewall. Why is it not stopping everything?
Right.
And it's because some of the things that are legitimate attacks are also legitimate use cases if they're configured properly. And so it takes an understanding that a web app firewall is not a Ron Popeil set it and forget it situation. It's and I think I said this on the show with when Daniel was here. It's like you have to have a relationship with your firewall policy, right? Because your app changes, the way people discover vulnerabilities changes, and it takes time, it takes effort. Nobody said security is convenient.
Yep. Yeah, you need to get to know your policy. You need to be best friends. Take it out to lunch, right? Kind of really get to know one another. That's right. And I'm glad you mentioned that really quick. Some of the really creative and good attacks will take advantage of functionality in a web application that needs to be there, that is expected to be there. And so it takes a little more digging or a little more, looking to say, hey, no, that's actually not good.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So we had the URI attack as well. And there
it is.
Firewall does not like that at all.
Not a happy firewall.
Kick that can right back out into the street. So, our cross-site scripting still in there.
Still hopping in.
Yep.
A little persistent.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so I can pull that out from the search. All right, and then sensitive data exposure. So let's try that action.
So this one was the one where you found the acquisition information, right? Or was this the FTP, like the file directory?
That's the FTP.
Okay,
thing. Yep.
Gotcha.
Right, so
gotcha.
Let's go.
I think it was on that photo wall or about us.
Yep. So go in here to the About Us, I click in here, and then I can just remove this file. And
go back to the main.
Yep. And so,
There
okay.
it is.
So it did not stop a directory listing by default. And that really shouldn't be that surprising.
Right.
Because out of the box, your firewall policy doesn't know, what URI paths are legitimate resources and what are directories.
That's right. Yeah. This goes back to exactly what we said. You need to know your policy, your firewall policy, but you also need to know your application, right?
Yep.
And you need to know that, hey, that exact path that you just looked at needs to not be allowed to be shown to everybody. So, so yeah.
All right. And so let me see if I can get the broken authentication working on this version of the app. So I'll log in here, admin at Juice Shop, admin 123. It's an amazing password.
It's a great password. It's easy to remember. Easy to remember.
All right. So I'll add something to the basket.
Yeah, this is the one where you're going to go and use those inspection tools and change the value of the the key, the session key.
Right. So I have some stuff in my basket.
Yep.
I got 8 things in my basket.
Man, so much juice.
Okay. So I come in here into the session storage, and I have no values. So let me change that to 2 and hit return. And if I go to this basket, I had 8. And yeah, so I had 8 items in my basket, and now it's showing me, well, really I only have 1 item in my basket.
You have raspberry juice, you just got a couple of them.
Yeah.
2 raspberry juices, please.
Right.
But this is clearly not your basket. So now you're in someone else's session,
Right.
So that's not a good thing.
No. And that's from a protected standpoint. So that's really, is that something that the web app firewall will find it all in a broken access control, or is that something that legit you're going to have to change the way your application behaves?
That's right.
And,
that's right.
And that's the dance that companies play between fix and mitigate, and mitigate. And I think both always have to be part of the strategy. But fix is obviously you want it fixed as soon as possible. But and we found this before. There's been platforms that we've been on that had some pretty significant vulnerabilities, and the company that had the platform at the time was like, yeah, we're not going to fix that.
Not going to fix it.
And so it's not like it's your own content. It's not your own development on top of the platform. It's the platform itself. And if you cannot fix it and you cannot get off that platform, mitigate is your only option.
That's right.
That's
right.
That's the reality really today, because no matter what platform you have out there, you are beholden to the platform provider's ability or willingness to do the work.
That's right. Yeah, you're sitting on top of a vulnerable platform or whatever. And in fact, that is another one of the OWASP top 10 security risks, using components with known vulnerabilities. And so that's another problem out there. So you need to be aware of it. Fix where you can, mitigate where you can't fix.
Yeah.
So
that was all of them. We already did the security misconfiguration as well as the injection. So we saw that the app was vulnerable to most of the attacks, but one of them it wasn't. Then when we put the firewall in front of it, it stopped 3 of those attacks. One of them that wasn't necessarily an issue with the app, but could be at some point if they introduced that. And so that's kind of a look at Juice Shop. It's a great fun little app to work through. If you like to bug hunt, and what I'll say about the firewalls is something I've said before, and I just want to reiterate the importance is that protecting your assets is not only a good thing to do, it's the right thing to do. You need to protect your stuff for you. You need to protect your stuff for your customers, and you need to protect your stuff for all the the collateral damage out there that is impacted if your stuff gets compromised, and then it becomes a command and control center for attacking other people.
It's not a good place to be, no doubt about it. So just another note that I would make. I think that's all great stuff. Just like we saw today, if you have a vulnerable web application and you maybe were thinking, hey, I'll put a WAF in front of it, a web application firewall in front of it, and that'll take care of my security problems, right? That's not completely true. It is partly true, but just like we showed today, you're going to need a WAF, but don't just rely and lean on the WAF to think that it's just going to do it all, because it's not,
or do it all by itself.
or do it all by itself. That's right. That's right. So, and I know I don't want to be redundant here, but yeah. So don't just rely on that. So you need good coding, good secure coding practices when you're building the application itself. But then it's always a good idea to put a WAF in front of it for that added protection. But then don't just rely on the WAF to say, okay, well, now we're secure. We have a WAF, So anyway, yeah, great stuff. Well, Jason, that was awesome, man. Got to walk through a vulnerable juice shop. Admittedly, I'm a little thirsty right now. I need some juice, So,
I don't know if I need some juice, but I need some water. I meant to bring my water in here, but I left it in the other room.
Get a little parched. Yeah, where's the water shop? Maybe that's not so vulnerable. I don't know. So, good stuff. Hey, I wanted to highlight one other comment here before we kind of wrap things up for today. Pratyush, and I apologize if I'm, butchering that name, but can you please help with the initial steps that one should pursue, or, so someone's looking to start the vulnerability assessment career path. It would really help. So yeah, great question. I know we don't have time today, but we can wrap that in. I think those are great conversations to have. But we will certainly address that, like some things to do. I will not to plug the show that I just did with Mary Gardner, but I just had a conversation with Mary Gardner, the F5 Chief Information Security Officer. It was last week. It was the security sidebar conversation with Mary Gardner. You can go back on YouTube and watch it. But we talked about that. Like, what is like at the CISO level of companies? What are they looking for? What should people be preparing themselves for? So it should be good. And here's a few, and I appreciate you guys jumping in. So Sebastian, OSCP exam, so great stuff. And then also Hack the Box. And then I'll mention one more that Sebastian had. Udemy
Chef,
Udemy. Or Udemy. Sorry, yep. And then Hack the Box, Chef with a +1 on Hack the Box. So there's some instant feedback as well. So awesome, man. I appreciate you guys stepping in and helping as well. All right.
Well, Jason, can I get on soapbox just for a second?
We love soapboxes.
I think that, when you talk about getting a start in vulnerability assessment, I think that, there should be a ground level of understanding in no matter what security discipline that you're going to go into, to have a ground level understanding or maybe even intermediate level of understanding into the infrastructure and architectures and in the deep bits of those particular things before you start thinking about, going into vulnerability assessment. Wow, that's hard to get out on those things. Because if you jump right to the vulnerability assessment and you don't have the foundation in those things, I think that you might lack some insight and ability and skill that will make you effective. And so, if your background is network ops and network engineering, and you're going to move into infrastructure security, that makes sense. If you're going to jump right into, application, analysis and all of that, and you don't have any background in building applications, there might be some holes in your understanding that make you less effective to being able to help your clients.
Yeah, it sets the context a little bit. Yeah. So that's it's a great word, man. Fantastic soapbox. We love those soapboxes. Good stuff, man. Well, I'll tell you what, we are out of time now, so we're going to wrap this one up for this week. It's been great to connect with everybody. I appreciate all the interaction today. It's been really cool to see you guys. One person that I noticed that we missed earlier was JP Griffin. JP, I don't know if you're still out there, but I think we missed you saying hello earlier. So I just wanted to circle back and say hello, and not just hello, but hello, JP Griffin. Hello. Awesome. And as we say hello, we'll also say goodbye because we're kind of all done for today. But hey, wanted to remind you guys to subscribe and like and join us, every week here on DevCentral Connects. So really appreciate that. So Jason, I know you've got something next week. You've got your show, so maybe a quick word on that.
Yeah, next week would normally be a You Want Answers, where we talk about certification questions that have been retired and maybe how you approach different security questions or certification questions. Maybe we'll do that. But next week, I think is connecting home devices or protecting your home devices, home and work devices. So we might actually go in a different direction to stay on theme for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we might just have a little bit different of a show next week.
Yeah.
So tune in. It'll be a great time.
Maybe you can hack into like your refrigerator or something, or maybe your neighbor's backyard camera. That'd be pretty cool. So good stuff.
I know my IP cameras are, they have a lot of firewall rules around them because they have like their primary in their documentation way to connect to the cloud to send all my data. And then they have their secondary and tertiary and quaternary channels that they try and launch when those fail. And
yes, they do.
Yeah.
Many channels. Awesome.
Yeah. I won't name vendors, but you know who you are.
Your name, Jason's about to start naming names. All right, man. Well, before we go, I know you guys have popped up a couple of the questions. Peter Scheffler, great advice. Great advice that Peter Scheffler's giving, and he's highlighting the great advice that Jason Rahm just gave. Start small, but always just start,
Get started.
Take a step, it's you can't go wrong. You'll find your own path. And I appreciate you saying that, Chef, that you'll find your own path. There is no one golden, yellow brick road path that leads from where you are today to where you're going to be. There are multiple ways to get there. So just get started.
There are only so many Jim Manicos out there, like not everybody can like be, on top of all the worlds.
That's right. That's right. Good to go. So and then Pratyush, I appreciate that. Thanks for the information. Thank you for the interaction today. And Ted Byerly, always a pleasure, my man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Great to see you. So thanks for that comment as well. Well, DevCentral community, it's been a pleasure today, as it always is, every Thursday at 12:30 Pacific, where we get to connect with you. And like Jason said, next week he'll be back with his version of U1 Answers as it relates to National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So with that, we will say thank you for everything you do, and we will see all of you next time.
See you later.